So this is the third time we are now recording this. Both times the SD card hasn't worked. Actually, no, the first time the battery died. So this might be a little bit more cut than we wanted it to be, but we're going to pause it after every few questions so that we can actually save something for once.
Save our sanity.
If it doesn't work again this time, we're giving up for today. We'll try again tomorrow.
I'm Michaela.
My name is Brent.
And I am 9 months pregnant.
Give him a show. Stand up. Third time we've done this. Very pretty.
With a boy.
Name reveal.
We decided to film this today because I'm 9 months pregnant and time has really flown by, and we want to talk about this while it's still fresh on our minds and answer some questions about being young and pregnant.
Yep. So first of all, we have some questions that we've written down for each other. We'll answer those, and then once we've answered those again, we will go through to the questions our friends and some people asked us through Michaela's Instagram, which you can find here. And then let's begin. What has been the biggest misconception you have experienced about being pregnant so far?
Our biggest misconception is that you have any idea what your body's going to be like when you're pregnant. Probably just how my body has dealt with things aside from the first 4 months when I was really sick. Since then, my body has dealt with things really well, and I've honestly been really lucky. Sometimes I even forget I'm pregnant. Not to say there's not sometimes some really gross symptoms and really ugly symptoms, but the way that movies make it look is not at all what pregnancy is like. Everyone has a different experience. I think as well the misconception that just because you're young, you're not prepared and people aren't going to support you and be excited for you. We've just had a lot of amazing support and everyone is so excited, and I just feel really lucky with my pregnancy experience. Once again, minus the first couple months. What excites you the most about being a dad?
Well, I think for me, it's definitely being able to teach River so many new things, like especially from our own experiences. Like, I'm so excited for him to be able to look up to not just me, but the both of us, because I think one of the biggest goals I have being a parent is to be someone that River will look up to, regardless of whether I was his dad or whether I was just a person that he knew or met. That's really important to me, and I really want to lead by example and show him what to do from what I do instead of just from what I say. So I think that's one of the things that excites me the most, apart from the basic, like, you know, seeing him be born, like smile, crawl, walk. I mean, all that stuff's exciting, but I don't think it's as exciting as, to me anyway, when he can be older and we can have proper conversations and he can really tell me I'm wrong about things and we can have really cool, deep conversations. So I know that's far away, but that's definitely, like, at this point, what I'm most excited for sure.
That's cute.
What firsts are you most excited to see of River, touching on that?
The first is obviously just seeing him for the first time, seeing what he looks like, which will obviously change at every stage of life. Just seeing the combination we whipped up will be really exciting.
Very exciting.
And I think I really want to enjoy every single phase. So I think the first one would be when he can kind of smile and interact a bit more, and observing a bit more will be really exciting for me. But I'm excited for all of the firsts.
Definitely.
How has your idea of being a young dad changed from someone had told you you were going to be a young dad?
Well, I mean, even just like 5 or 6 years ago, my life was in a completely different place. Like, obviously, we're both in the tail end of high school. I have Crohn's disease, and at the time I was in high school, I struggled with that immensely. Like, that was definitely the defining feature of my life, was that I had Crohn's disease. So I didn't even think of much else past that. I didn't, at the time, I didn't know how I was going to get a beautiful partner, how I was going to have a family, how I was going to have a job. And it's just so crazy to me to think in such a short amount of time, those big existential worries I was having, it's not, my life isn't perfect. Like, we both work so hard each day and there are so many things we want to achieve and keep working on. But I think my opinion has changed so much because, we took some leaps and did things that, maybe not everyone would do straight out of high school, like starting their own business and not going to university. But for our lifestyle and both the issues we had going on, it seemed to be the only answer at the time. And now so many opportunities have come through because of that decision that we made earlier on. So I think my opinion has changed a lot just because I've changed so much as well, and I'm so much more excited, and I feel as ready as I feel like you probably could feel.
You never feel ready, though.
Yeah, you never feel ready. And I know that as soon as River's here, like I've heard from so many dads, young and old, seeing your child be born is such a world-changing moment. So I'm keen for that to happen. I'll pop in and I'll update you guys after that happens as well. But for now, that's it. What excites you the most about being a mum, or a young mum, or a mum in general?
Just being able to influence someone, you know, like you're their everything as a parent, and having a touch of that with my little sister and watching her be born and then now grow into, seems like a young woman. She's only 9, but she's about to be 9.
Yeah, true.
But it's just been so cool seeing from baby to child to young human. Raise your child with your best friend and to have your own little family, and I just feel so lucky to be able to raise humans with you. Just so excited that we get to have an impact on someone who's coming through as the next generation, who's gonna impact the world.
Like Michaela said, if I wasn't with Michaela, this isn't something that would have ever crossed my mind. But like Mick said, when you're with your best friend, I think it just feels almost natural at a certain point when you feel secure enough to take that next step. And we've both wanted our own little family for like a long time. So especially with Mick having endo and me having Crohn's, you know, it was always something that I think we stressed about a little bit. So that was another reason why we were just so excited to finally find out. And yeah, okay.
So the frame might change a little bit throughout this, but that's okay.
We're trying. We're new to this.
We're saving all of this precious data. Now we're going to answer some questions I got from my friends or my Instagram followers about pregnancy and becoming parents. So I'm just going to say them in a bit of a random order because we've answered them a few times now. We'll start with a cute one. Favorite treat during prego days? I honestly haven't had like massive cravings like people say you do. I haven't had anything that weird. I probably just have craved sweeter food, I guess. Probably sushi more than anything. I had a lot of sushi.
My opinion is definitely lots more, I guess, like fast food.
Yeah.
Like way more than usual.
Yeah, a lot more than I was eating before. Probably food I used to have in my childhood a lot more.
It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, I guess comfort food that I would have had a lot more. Bubbly, like soft drinks. But yeah, like the first 3 to 4 months, it was really nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Nothing too exciting. I think that was definitely like a bit of a mini letdown for me throughout this whole thing. I was hoping you'd have like pickles and eggs or something random.
People always ask me that, but like that just makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing that exciting.
Yeah. No,
Hate to break it to you.
Do you think you were ready for a baby or you just rolled with it and are now prepared?
Okay, so I think a big misconception was that River was an accident. He wasn't an accident. He was maybe a bit of a surprise, but we were definitely aware of what we were doing. And we also have had many a conversation about having children soon.
I think if anything, the most surprising thing was kind of how quick it happened. You know,
yes, because
like,
I wasn't sure what my body was going to do.
For sure, because like we'd be trying for like probably like 2 or 3 months leading up to it. But like obviously you hear from people that it can take a year or like 18 months or whatever. So I think that was more what we had in our heads. And then when it happened so quickly, it was more a surprise of like, wow.
Yeah.
That's worked out really well. You know? And it makes me feel lucky again, because I know for so many people that is like a big struggle. So 100%. I feel really grateful for that.
Honestly had a missed period, which was the strangest thing to me because my period is always knocking on my door as soon as it wants to be. And I took a test that day and came back 3 positive straight away. And
that was such a, like, I remember feeling so... I don't know what this like. Yeah, excited, but you feel so like it's a surreal feeling, like when it's actually a proper pregnant, like it's come back positive. Like we did it like multiple times, and it was just like, wow, really? And like it definitely,
especially because at that point there was no signs.
There's no physical signs. So like you're trusting this little stick, and you kind of like, wow. And then, you know, with each scan that comes up, you know, you're worried about, is he going to have all of his fingers and toes? Is he going to be like, okay? I think progressively you just become more used to it over time. And then it kind of reached the point where we made his room, which we can see now. Once his room really got put together, that was really like the...
became
wow.
a bit real. And
Became a lot
obviously
more
as
real,
you get a bump, you start feeling kicks. That's the... If I didn't feel that and see that, it's really hard to even comprehend that there's a human inside of me.
I hope that answers your question.
It's kind of similar. This was meant to be your path at this age, or was there an adjustment period? So... sorry, you go.
No, you go. I'll think.
I think, like we said, it was obviously there's always an adjustment period when anything big like that happens. Actually, interestingly enough, I went to a psychic on my 20th birthday and she pulled out a bunch of cards that have been quite accurate. One of the things she said to me was that I was going to have a young family. That was really at the point I was really struggling with my endo. And we had spoken probably ever really since then, not because of that, but since my endo struggle, that we did want to have a young family and that that was probably going to be our journey. So I don't think it was really a shock or anything like that. It obviously, like I said, there's always an adjustment period.
I think for me, it was more... Like growing up, I think you have I don't know if it's a societal thing or whether it's your parents, depending on who your parents are, but I thought you kind of had to be one or the other. And I think especially as a female, that gets put on you a lot more. Like you're either a stay-at-home mum or you have a career. And I kind of felt like the same. Like I felt like, well, if we were to have a kid younger, am I not going to be able to fulfill my, I guess, drive to want to be really successful in whatever career I choose?
Yeah.
But what I kind of realized is they're not
exclusive.
Yeah, they're not exclusive things at all. Like it's definitely, for me, I've interpreted this whole thing as just a massive motivational boost to want to keep working harder for our business and to keep working harder, to keep learning about new things and to keep growing, because really that's been like my biggest motivation. And all those years ago when we first started dating, it's only 4, 5, but it sounds like all those years ago. Like I think Michaela was that motivation for me initially, was to care for someone outside of myself, because like I mentioned earlier, I had the Crohn's, I was really sick all the time, I was quite depressed and my outlook on life was pretty bleak. So Michaela was that first big, I guess, motivational kickstarter for me to want to maybe stop feeling a bit more sorry for myself and start looking at life in a better way and playing the cards that I was dealt instead of wishing I had different cards. So I definitely think that was a big thing for me, like slightly getting adjusted to it. But now that I'm fully over the other side, I feel just so much more excited to keep pursuing this career that we have been doing and to work harder for it. So that was definitely like a slight adjustment, but I'm better for it.
And I think as well, the adjustment that like no matter what, we wanted to have kids and a family. And I think realizing there's so many benefits depending on your circumstances, on like for us being young and doing this the way we're doing it is the way that we feel is right. And I think that's also just adjusting in your head. Like obviously now they'll tend to have kids a lot later and that's totally fine, but it's so circumstantial. And I think adjusting just what your younger self thinks your life is going to plan out to be versus what ends up happening, because I wouldn't think I would even be engaged at this age. So
that's crazy.
That just happens. You have to adjust.
Adapt or die. Sounds bleak, but it's kind of true.
This one's a bit of a longer one.
Oh yeah.
Did being pregnant make you less tolerant, or I guess more on edge at times? What was/is Brent's strategy for de-escalating situations like this? Did you guys have a safe word or plan for handling this when River is here? I've always heard it's not the best to argue in front of your kitties.
Okay, so let's break that one down from start a little bit. The first part, like, I definitely think at the start. So when Mick was really sick for those first 16 weeks, she could have been yelling, screaming, doing anything to me, and I would have fully understood, because it was so kind of horrific.
I literally didn't have the energy.
But she didn't even really have the energy. So it's not like anything, she was more on edge or anything. She just had a lot less energy.
I think I was on edge maybe about being able to get through the pregnancy, but I wasn't
outwardly taking that out on anyone, you know what I mean? But definitely, like, I think more so as we've gotten closer to the end, you can really feel and tell when you're feeling super hormonal, and sometimes you feel a bit more emotional. But I think to me as a partner, like any good partner, like when the roles were reversed, before Michaela was pregnant and I was down, the other one tends to balance out and you kind of pick each other up. So that's always been our kind of, I guess, way to deal with things, even when we disagree or when someone's not feeling good, is just to kind of openly communicate what you're feeling, and to get to the bottom of it, because we both know we love each other dearly. We both know like nothing major would ever happen. So it's more about just getting through that misunderstanding at the time. And moving on. That's really all it is.
And like, I'm very lucky to have, especially, I know a lot of women struggle with their partners being really patient and understanding. And because Brent's been through so much with his own health and not feeling in the best mental space because of that, he really does know how to understand what that feels like, to feel really physically out of control. And I think like, you know, we obviously have disagreements and stuff. We work together full time, we live together, but we really don't argue, or we never make each other upset. Like our arguments last a very small amount of time, and they always end with usually me just being like, that was my hormones, I'm sorry. But that's the thing, is like, it's about apologizing and owning up to things and being accountable and realizing and never being harmful or hurtful towards each other. And obviously in terms of when River's here, that's a massive priority for us. It would never be okay for us to be arguing or
like, for sure,
in front of him.
Like, may disagree, but I think that's normal and healthy to a certain extent to disagree.
And that's important for your kids to see too. Like, you're not always going to be on the exact same page, but we do have such a good foundation, and the reason that we have such a good relationship is because we genuinely really like each other, not just love each other. Like, we are really good friends, and I think that's the most important thing in a relationship, and important for us to model in front of him. Yeah.
We want him to grow up in like a family that, you know, kind of emulates love and acceptance and a kind of openness as well. Like, we want him to bring us questions about things that he, you know, discovers throughout his life, because to me, that's always been a really important part of growing up as a child, is being able to like ask your parents whatever you need, and to be able to get support from them. So we want to be able to do the exact same for River and for our other kids in the future.
So no, we don't have a safe word.
No, there's not a safe word. It's kind of like a look.
Yeah.
Like, safe look.
Cut it out. Yeah. But no, we don't, you know, we get along.
Yes.
That's important.
We wouldn't be having a baby if we didn't.
No, 100%. How many children would you love to have, ideally, and what would the age gaps be?
So this is interesting, because I think it's changed a lot for both of us over time. So I've grown up in a household just with, I have one other sibling. So there's just the two of us, and she's my younger sister, and there's about a 4-year age difference. And I've really enjoyed it. Like, I think it's a really good age gap, because I feel like with the 4 years, I'm kind of always at a different stage in my life to what Katie will be at. And I feel like I can always give her insight or advice from the things that I learnt in that time. And we don't necessarily cross over socially with our friend groups or anything, which causes drama or whatever. So I think in that regard, like, that my age gap was good, but seeing Michaela's family, which has 4 kids altogether, I really enjoy the camaraderie and almost the tribeness that comes with having more kids. Yeah. So I think we've crossed over a little bit.
Yeah, like at the start of my pregnancy, I was like, I'm never having another kid. This pregnancy is horrible. But obviously, as I've gotten better...
Nearly forgotten about it.
I totally forget about that time. And I 100% would want to give River siblings. I think it's super important. Like Brent said, I've grown up with... I had a brother either side of me, and then my sister came ages after. I always wanted a sister, but obviously you can't control that. I love having the 2 brothers that I grew up with. I think just the whole like dynamic of having siblings, like Brent said, like I think 3 to 4 years is a really good age gap. Sometimes when they're a bit close, it can overlap a bit when you get a bit older and you're in high school.
But it also has its own like strength as well.
100%.
Like, when you are closer.
100%. There's like so many pros and cons to every sort of situation, and it's also dependent on gender, which you can't control. Especially once you meet your first child and you understand their nature and what they're like, I think you'll know the right time to start trying again. For sure. But I definitely want 2 to 3, potentially 4
potentially
kids. And I would definitely, before the next one, there'll definitely be at least a 3-year age gap.
For sure.
I'm going to power through these last couple before our camera dies again.
Let's do it.
The hardest thing about pregnancy and the best thing about pregnancy, I'm just going to answer that quickly and say the hardest thing was the HG, the first 3 months being really, really sick all the time. And the best thing is feeling him move and feeling him kick.
Yeah.
Definitely.
From my perspective, worst thing, have to agree with Michaela, was definitely the HG/vomiting disease. It felt like that was
hangover for like 4 months straight.
That was occurring for all that time. That was definitely really tough, even from the partner's perspective, to have to watch someone go through the whole time. And I definitely think the best thing has just been, I guess for me, fully realizing that we're creating our own little family. You know, honestly, it sounds like a little thing, but it's been such an exciting and such a blessing in my life that I didn't realize how much I would even be looking forward to it even before we had the baby, you know. So I'm so happy that feeling has continued to grow on me over this whole pregnancy period, and I'm just so excited to meet him at this point, honestly. I think we both are.
What would you want to highlight for other young people? I would want to highlight that it is not for everyone, and that if you don't have a good foundation in your relationship, I would not recommend having a baby. I obviously haven't had the baby yet, but I think the key to this whole thing is that we are ready. And I think you only know that yourself. People can act like you're not. People can assume you're not. Or vice versa, they can assume you are, even if, you know, you're 10 years, 20 years down the line. You might never want kids. Like, it's so circumstantial, and I think I would say to other young people, don't listen to what anyone has to say, because when you're pregnant, people are going to keep saying things to you that you don't really care about or want to hear, and that you've probably heard from 20 other people.
Yes.
But follow your journey, your heart, and what you know, because truly, like, no one else can tell you.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think what's important to highlight, like Michaela said, is to make sure that your relationship is solid, and not even that like it's solid, like you get along, but I think it's important, especially if you're younger, to be almost like best friends. Like,
and to be really open and communicate and communicate your fears and your stresses and what worries you, but also what excites you, and just being really open with each other and not doing it just. It's going to be a human. It's not going to be a baby forever. So that's really important to think about too. Yeah,
it's definitely the longer term of it is to like understand that each phase is exactly that. It's just a phase. So when people say to you like, oh, you're going to have to change nappies and you're going to be up all night. I understand that. That's great, but that's only a phase. It's not going to be like that forever. And I think, and that touches more on what Mick said about people just throwing their opinions and projecting onto you. But I think be prepared for that if you are a young person becoming to be pregnant.
You have to have some sort of protective veil around you that's like, it just bounces off you.
Yeah, you listen to it and then it just kind of comes out the other ear. And like there'll definitely be things people will tell you that you'll be like, yeah, true, that's good information, I should pick up on that. But it's about like 20% of the time. Yeah, so just be prepared for that. And when you have a good relationship, or at the very least, good support around you, you can kind of laugh that off and you can talk about it because people understand. It's more so the people who aren't as close to you who just want to throw their opinion onto you, usually, from my experience anyway.
Yeah.
So, I would say just that's the part I would highlight for most young people.
Yes, definitely. Has your relationship changed to be River first and your relationship second? I think this kind of touches on what we were saying before, the question about having a good foundation and stuff. But I think the key is if your relationship is as important to you as your relationship with your baby, your family unit is always going to be stronger. And it's always been so important for us. Like we said, we have a really good foundation, and we know there'll be times where obviously when you have a baby, they come first, like literally in the moment. But that doesn't mean our relationship changes and it's not, once again, they're not like exclusive. I think they intertwine so much, and it's so important that you prioritize your love and your admiration for each other all the time, because you're both putting in so much work and effort to like have that family and have that relationship with your kid and with your partner.
Definitely. And I think for me, it's not a first or a second. It's just a general motivation for me to work more for Michaela and for River. Like, I think this whole experience has just been the ultimate kind of motivation for me to want to keep working really hard at what we're doing, because we enjoy it, but also because it's going to be like the foundation financially as well for our family, like as River grows up. And it's always been so important for us, like we've spoken about so many times, we'd so rather have River be young and grow up seeing us progress throughout our life, both within the business and as people, rather than wait till we're kind of at the peak and then he's born into this place where he only knows that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be so cool for him
to grow with us.
To grow with us. And like, that's always been really important. And I think that's why there's no first or no second, because we're a little family and we're going to keep growing together. But like Mick said, there will obviously be points where someone needs more direct attention at once or the other, but like throughout the course of a week, it always balances out. So
yeah, it's like, you know, in bigger picture, your relationship is really important to prioritize and like the love you have for each other.
Yeah, because it reflects onto River as well, obviously. Like if he sees a happy, loving relationship, when he grows up, that's what he will try and emulate in his own relationship, which is obviously what you want. So that's a priority.
And that keeps the energy in the house great regardless, because that's what you want. If one of us isn't happy and we're not, you know, attending to each other, then he's going to realize that, because we're going to get shittier,
for sure,
basically.
Financial
spending changes? Question mark.
I mean, obviously you prioritize more of your money to
into
buying baby things. That kind of makes sense. But I guess for us, we're kind of in a unique position in that, like, most of the money we earn, we don't really spend on ourselves anyway. We invest back into our business at this point. So I think it's just adjusting that slightly, buying a few more baby things, feeling prepared.
I realize you can spend as much or as little as you want on a baby. Truly nowadays, there is so much baby stuff on the market, and you just have to work out what he needs as he needs
What's essential and what is just like a brand, or what is just, I guess, fashionable at the time,
or people making you feel
like you need something
because like they scare you into needing all these extra things.
It's literally like any other thing in the world that you go to purchase. Like, there's a market for it, and then there's like a really high-end market, and then there's like this sensible middle ground, and then there's the really cheap options. So depending on your situation, you just get what you need.
You make it work. Honestly, the healthcare system here, we've been so lucky. In Australia, obviously, having a baby is free. I've also had the same consistent midwife this entire time. I am giving birth in literally my dream. It's in the local hospital, but it is like my dream room.
Big bath,
which will probably be in our next video.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely show around.
But I'm so excited and feel so lucky and blessed to have had the pregnancy experience in terms of the healthcare system here too. And being able to have that for free is literally still so mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, that's definitely
the care is just insane. And as well, the midwife comes and visits me for the 6 weeks after birth and checks everything's okay, sets me up with breastfeeding and all the essential things. We've had these amazing modules we've had access to learn about becoming parents, and
I've watched 4 live births. It's been cool.
It's about to watch a real life one. You can spend as little or as much as you want on your baby, and it's up to you.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like, obviously you need the essential things, like we said, but then past that, it's just extras.
And your family and friends will spoil.
Yeah. No, we're very lucky, so we can't complain about that stuff at all. We've been like more than lucky.
I could probably just talk a little bit about my symptoms from each trimester and how they changed. My first trimester was really, really tough, as we said. Symptoms were nausea.
Good list of symptoms.
Yeah. I wanted to remember, because now I can't think about it. It's honestly really hard. Yeah. Nausea, vomiting, really sensitive nipples and boobs. Like, that was a big one.
Vivid dreams.
Vivid dreams. Yeah. And I've had vivid dreams throughout my entire pregnancy, almost nightmares, I would say, majority of them. Especially because I wake up so many times to pee now.
Yep.
I have like 5 intervals of really intense dreams.
They're not continuous, they're different dreams.
They're different,
each time.
yeah. What else? Trimester 1, tired, fatigued.
Saliva times 1,000.
Yes, so I had so much extra saliva, which was
forgot
the
about that.
weirdest
Yeah.
symptom
It was
in
really strange.
trimester 1, but I literally like hated talking to anyone because I had a mouthful of saliva. You wouldn't think it's bad, but it's a horrible symptom.
It's very annoying over time, for sure.
I had to have a vomit bag to
All the
vomit
time.
all the time, but also just to be able to spit into, which was gross.
It must have been a symptom of the HG.
Yes, it was definitely
yeah.
because I was so sick all the time.
Trimester 2.
Trimester 2 was heartburn. I had it a lot more in trimester 2. I've just started getting it again recently. You know, your body does change a fair bit. I've been pretty lucky.
The female body is, I mean, obviously I've appreciated the female body this whole time, but it's just a whole nother level when it's like your partner and you see the changes firsthand from like...
Brent can see them even more than I can.
It sounds bad, but I completely understand how most people don't really care about when other people are pregnant. It's only when you are really going through it, it feels so different, because it really does, because it's obviously it's your child
impactful,
and your kid.
yeah.
And like I joked about that with Michaela the other day with the ultrasound scans. It's because they all look the same.
Yeah.
You could swip and swatch them. Swip and swatch.
But when you know it's your baby and it's the result that you want, it feels
different.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I hope you can pick up on our excited energy and understand that that's how it feels a bit more so than just looking at photos of a little fetus and being like, cool.
I felt my first kicks around 17 weeks, and then Brent could feel them, like other people could start feeling them around 20 weeks. Thank you guys so much for watching and for everyone who sent through the questions. I'll definitely be doing more videos like this, talking about my journey. Like, this is the smallest
little insight.
Yeah, and I really do have baby brain at the moment, so I don't feel like I can articulate my words super well. But we are so excited to meet our little man soon and to, I guess, finish off this first little pregnancy journey we've had. But I feel so lucky and excited. Thank you guys so much for wanting to be a bit a part of it.
No, I think from me as well, like, thank you for having me on. This has been really exciting. I enjoy this because to me it just feels like I'm talking to my friends again. This is kind of how we are when we're talking to our friends. I think it's really fun, and if everyone enjoys it, I'd love to do more of these. Not even just talking about the baby, talking about the business or our sicknesses or how we like kind of juggle life in general. I think to some people it's probably interesting out there somewhere. So yeah, no, I'm excited to keep sharing and to keep growing and to kind of keep everyone updated, not just for you guys, but also for us to reflect upon. Like, once River is here and years from now, it's going to be kind of trippy to see young Brent and young Michaela. We're going to be like, oh, they were such kids.
Yes.
You know?
I love watching these videos myself and hearing other people's experiences because they're so subjective.
For sure.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and hopefully
Much appreciated.
we will see you guys again soon.
Thank you all. Peace.